King Edward's VI College, Centre number 20570, Theatre Studies Unit 2, performance of The Permanent Way by David Hare. My name is George Bandy. My candidate number is 6069. I play the ensemble, bereaved father, managing director of Railtrack and squadron leader.
My name is Molly Williams. My candidate number is 7043 and I play bereaved widow and campaigning solicitor and ensemble.
My name is Luke Plimmer. My candidate number is 6756 and I play ensemble and young man in denim.
My name is Cairo Dredge. My candidate number is 6277. I play ensemble, the campaigning solicitor and the leading entrepreneur.
My name is Chloe Sheldon. My candidate number is 6862 and I play the bereaved mother and ensemble.
My name is Sophie Jane Moore. My candidate number is 6657 and I play the second bereaved mother and ensemble.
My name is Freddie Appley. My candidate number is 6033 and I play Lord Cullen, the Scottish literary editor and ensemble.
My name is Ben Guest. My candidate number is 6370 and I play the ensemble and British transport policeman.
Stockport, Wilmslow, Crewe and London Euston. This is a safety announcement. It is not permitted to cycle, skateboard or rollerblade within the station building.
Britain? Yeah, beautiful country. Sherman Harbour and Railway.
This is what I feel. I feel we're all doing our best, but it isn't working. That's how it feels. Every day, everywhere, everyone's trying terribly hard. Everyone wants it to work. They have an idea what it might be like if it worked. People are told all the time they have to change their ways. It's essential we change our ways. We've got to work hard. The way we've worked is wrong. People arrive and move schemes, but mysteriously, things don't get any better. Why not?
The most basic thing you want to do anywhere is move. And in Britain, you can't move. We're useless at it.
The thing with the trains and the Labour government is interesting. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's interesting. Because the Labour government does everything except address the problem. That's it. They do everything except address the fucking problem. They do everything except the one fucking thing they need to do. And why? Why wouldn't they do that? Why wouldn't they do the one thing which they need to do? Because they made a bad review in the Daily Mail. Okay, just think about it. Think about it, please.
I mean, why can the French do it? I was brought up to believe that the French can't do anything. The French can run a railway, and we can't.
Man next to me, next door neighbour in, Oxfordshire, works for Warburgs, lovely house. So Warburgs are the bank who handled the privatisation of railways. This man made a fortune. No, I wouldn't say he made a fortune. More John Major walked into the fucking Bank of England and said, take as much as you like, just take it. An avalanche of money, that's what he got. Doesn't really need to, but still travels up to the city every day. And the only thing he talks about, going there, coming back, is sole topic of conversation, the state of the railways, how the trains don't run on time.
I mean, take London. What about London? The whole thing of London ought to be a beautiful city. Why not? Nothing works. The transport doesn't work. The garbage doesn't work. The streets are filthy. There's not a road with no hole in it. And the prices are twice anywhere else in the world. Everything's here. Everything you could want is here. But for one thing, it just doesn't work.
Even I can see what to do. Even I can see it. I've got a brain like a sparrow's nest. Or shit and sticks. But even I can see what to do.
We're all trying our best, but it isn't working.
In London, you have a tube strike, and nobody gets angry. You tell me what that's about. Everybody's standing there, you can't get into work, nobody can get into work, and nobody's upset. Oh yeah, they say, that's how it is, that's how we are. It wouldn't be hard, it actually wouldn't be hard to make it work. In London, you elect a mayor, and the mayor does something. He does something and it all gets better. Except in his case he doesn't. He doesn't get better. In his case he's still the most popular man in London. It's all getting worse. The more roads they close, the more holes they dig. The slower the traffic, the later the tube, the dirtier the streets, the more they cheeky. It's all getting worse and you love him for that, for that.
What do we ask of life but that something should work? How beautiful it is when a workman arrives on time, does the job and leaves. How beautiful that is.
People knocked John Burt. They say he messed with the BBC. Actually, no. I was there. I saw what happened. People can say what they like. The fact is, the BBC is now much better run. Much better run. It is. Programmes are worse. Shame about the programmes. But the place is much better run.
Why do we all want to fuck the plumber? What's the fantasy here? It's not the 1950s, where women who sit around all day in their 90s, bored out of their minds. Not anymore. But people still want to fuck plumbers. Why? Because the plumber knows what he's doing. That's why the plumber knows.
What did Princess Diana say? What was Diana's complaint, remember? She lacked a business plan. Nobody sat me down with a piece of paper and said, this is what is expected.
I have 12 degrees. I'm an honorary doctor of philosophy at Oxford University. And I can't make a book.
Britain? Yeah, well, it's 19th century Russia, isn't it? And I'm not talking Tolstoy, believe me. I'm talking Gogol. Bureaucracy, inefficiency, and vodka. That's what it is. Come 11 o'clock, the young men go out onto the road, onto the pavement, and that's it. And get their dicks out. That's it. That's how we live. Dicks out and pee into the gutter. Pee the day away. For us, the gents is too far to go.
People don't like to say this. They don't like to say it. But there's something called practical intelligence, isn't there? And I'm sorry, it's completely different from intellectual intelligence. I mean, I could build a good wall if I had to. It's not that hard, is it? To build a good wall, to make an engine, to mend a car. Tell me, is it really that hard?
I know when something is working, but no, not how it works. We delegate that responsibility. How the waste disappears away down the pipe, the path it travels, the alleys, the destinations, all these are unknown to us, as our organs, our own bodies are unknown to us. A sack of history.
People die on the roads every day, for goodness sake. I mean, let's be honest, let's be clear. Every day they die on the roads, nobody says anything. 3,450 people die on the roads every year. When 4 people die on the railway, suddenly it's a crisis. Someone tell me why 3,450 isn't a crisis, but 4 is. Because, as far as I can tell you, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. Not to the person who dies, because they die. That's the event. That's what happens. They're squashed on the road or they're thrown into a railway cutting. But does it matter how they die? Why should that matter? Because they're still dead.
They didn't tell me. I said, where's his shoes? They said, didn't you know you always lose your shoes?
There's this poster everywhere. Have you seen it? 99% of London Underground frontline staff have been victims of abuse. I have to say it's a pretty impressive statistic. For a start, it's way up on their punctuality rate. They say, no one has the right to attack the staff of the London Underground. I don't get it. I would have thought attacking the staff of the London Underground was one of the few remaining sources of satisfaction for the travelling public. I mean, why not? Why can't we attack them? It's better than just standing there waiting for the fucking train. And maybe if we attacked them, something would get done.
When you're in an accident, when you're thrown from the window, didn't you know you always lose your shoes?
We've all got what we want. The question is, remember the song. How come we haven't got what we need?
The political problem with the railways is they're not quite important enough. Hospitals? Important. Schools? Important. Those are the things governments are judged by. Will I die? Do I know anything? Those are the real questions in life. Can I get there on time? Not quite the same, is it? Not quite.
What do managers do? You know what a carpenter does. You know what a doctor does. But what does a manager do? Nobody knows.
My father always said there's no free lunch. My father was right, there's no free lunch. And there's no free market. The market is rigged. And the rigging's in favour of those who work there. That's what the market is. It's a big casino. The house always wins. One way or another, the taxpayer always pays for the railways. The Treasury wouldn't subsidise them properly when they were publicly owned, because they must have been inefficient. Why? Because they were publicly owned.
transport you have to share. Because on public transport you might hear an opinion not your own. It spoils your world view. Whereas in a car, well, in a car, whatever you believe, there's no one to tell you otherwise.
Wanted marketing manager for Sussex County Cricket Club. Interest in cricket, not essential.
You know what we call it when they reorganise? When they reorganise again. When the managers turn and say, that's not efficient, let's reorganise. Our word for it, but leave that. The system's stupid. And here it comes again.
Everyone knows the present railway system is stupid. It's like trying to run a restaurant where the cook works for one company, the waitress for another, and the washer-uppers for a third. The system of fines imposed by supervising authorities if the food's noticeable or the plates are dirty. Anyone would say it's a stupid way to run a restaurant. Even a moron would say that's a stupid system, and that's the system they chose.
The rate of subsidy to the railways in the next 5 years will be 3 times what it was when it was publicly owned.
Why aren't they angry? Why aren't people angry? They were robbed. What belonged to them was taken by a bunch of bankers and incompetent politicians. What was theirs was given away. What was foredoomed to fail, failed. And nobody's angry. You explain that. Somewhere between the emotion and the belief, the pedal is gone, the connection is gone. Nobody believes that by being angry, that by expressing anger, anything changes. Anything can change.
Nobody paid me a piece of paper and told me what was expected of me.
What's the point? What's the fucking point?
I took on the railways because I like a challenge. They were an interesting challenge, you see. I've tried to make the whole travel experience more like an airline, more customer-oriented. Just an example, I was on one of our new trains the other day, the Pendolinos, and there was no hot milk. So, I rang ahead to the next station. It's details like that you've got to fix. Now, it's true when we started the company, we were nervous of the British rail staff, because their reputation, it wasn't great. But we wanted to take them on and motivate them anyway. So, what I did was, I had a big party at my house. 7,000 of them I had around there. See, they didn't feel loved, and I wanted to give them what they hadn't had. Now, obviously, we would have preferred to own our own track. I mean, if 80% of your trains are running like due to a faulty track, you would do something about it. Under the present system, all we can do is contact Network Rail and ask them to fix it. Network Rail is a seriously demoralised organisation. And I think that's the heart of it. In life, you want to be proud of what you do, and you want to be proud of what you work for. But let's face it, if you tell your friends that you work for Network Rail, they're not going to say, that's fantastic.
Somebody rang me up. He said, put on the telly. I looked. There was a list of the dead so-called, but there's only one name. My son's. They closed the office and put his name on sick leave.
I later rewrote the manual because nobody really had any idea how to handle an investigation of this size. 7 people killed and over 100 injured. It was clear the driver had gone through a red line. We had a tape, terrible tape, a tape of him on the phone saying, I'd gone through a red line and I killed lots of people. I used to play that at police training courses. A grown man crying and screaming. It used to shut everyone up. The room would go very quiet. Then you have to work on from there, David. You have to do like an audit trail. Why did the driver go through a red line? Was there equipment on the train to stop it under those circumstances? If so, was it working? Was it on? 2 systems in the cab, it turns out. 2 systems. One, AWS, not working. And the other, only the most advanced train protection system in the whole of Europe, the famous ATP. And, oh, I see, ATP, not switched on. And what's worse, the driver not trained to use it. Why not? It's just like I said. Audit trail, you take it on backwards, from the driver to supervisors, to management, to managing directors, and then finally to government policy, to government itself. There was no structure, you see. For investigating corporate crime, I had to make it up on one. Loved the way Railtrack instructed me. Several times I went to court with injunction, stuff I needed from them in the Great Western Trains, which they did not want to give me. My attitude was, this is an inquiry. Don't you want to get at the truth?
Our son was referred to as body number 6. I don't think I've started campaigning playing court in that.
At Southall, I was accused of going native. I mean, it's just always hard work. It's a strength and it's a weakness. People said to me, oh, you're very outspoken to be a police officer. Well, no, actually, I just told the truth. I mean, I lie like everyone else when I have to, but by and large, I tell the truth. I suppose you could say there were some of the jobs I could have got. You could ask, why was this guy never made chief constable?
I was a supervisor at Marks and Spencer's. My son Peter was 29. He worked at Freshfields as solicitors, you know. He was a hotshot lawyer about to marry his partner. In the firm, they couldn't believe how clever he was coming from Essex, and when I heard him on the phone, I used to think, he doesn't sound like my son. He sounds like a proper lawyer. And later, when I was running the disaster action group, I found myself saying things like, I'll put it to you. It's like he was on my side. Peter was on my shoulder.
In fact, I'm taught very little altogether about the whole crash.
On the night we were waiting, it was a dark September, so nights were getting dark already. Making cups of tea, not drinking it. And we stood in the kitchen and I kept saying, well, if he's gone, then it's written. And I felt as if it was coming from somewhere. And then my husband said to me, and it was in the dark, and he'd just thrown another cup of tea away which he'd made, and he said, Maureen. Turned mine and said, he said, Maureen. And he was crying. And he said, if Peter's gone, then you've got to forgive me. And I said, what do you mean? He said, if Peter's gone, then I can't stay here, I'm going to go. He was going to kill himself.
It's so. I said to the team, we're doing this on behalf of those who died and those who are left behind. We're not doing this for any other bugger. And then, of course, the whole thing falls into place.
We went up to the moorway. Peter was lying on a trolley. His nose had come off and they just stuck it back on again. And he had this fringe. Oh, he never had a fringe in his life. And he had this fringe. And I didn't feel like I'd actually left my son there. Because it wouldn't. His spirit had gone.
At one point, there was going to be a railway inquiry, and a railway inquiry should be titled, Let's Get Our Act Together Before the Truth Comes Out.
Kept his room as it was, but it's not a shrine.
And then there was to be a public inquiry, and a public inquiry is only a gloss on that. Inviting people along to give their own account of what happened is bullshit. All it does is cover it up. You need trained investigators.
I learned a lot. I began to learn. Every train has an advanced warning system.
It's actually a button on the floor, and when the bell goes, the driver takes his foot off the button and puts it back on again.
Alright. Do you mind if I tell this? You see, driving a train can be very monotonous, so every 30 seconds the driver has to prove he's still concentrating. Still awake. The train had gone down to Swansea, and in the front engine the detection system was working properly. But none at the back. Well, that one weren't working at all. Many times it had been reported. Many times the driver on the way down, many times he reported it. You see, what you should do then is regular practice. You turn the train around.
You turn the train around.
That way, the engine with the working safety system is at the front. But they wouldn't do that, you see, because they would lose 10 minutes.
In under the new privatised system, if you're 10 minutes late, you have to pay a fine.
I know that's the reason, not for sure.
That's what I believe.
But we're not into beliefs, we're into facts.
Well, I've got different ideas to you.
No! We're into facts!
We had a friend, a barrister actually, who died in the Martinez disaster. That's how we got into representing victims. We found ourselves eventually acting for 51 families who needed to get to the bottom of what had happened. And to be honest, the point is, we didn't give up when the money ran out. That's the point. We didn't give up.
Then there was this funny thing. On my way to Southall, I was on a train.
When Southall happened in 1997, we had 2 clients who were passengers. See, now what happens at a public inquiry is that the Law Society convenes a meeting of all the solicitors involved. It just so happened that we were elected to represent all the victims.
I was on my way to the inquiry when I heard there'd been another
What's that film?
crash. This time at Ladbroke Grove.
What's that film?
And actually during the inquiry,
Groundhog Day.
into the first crash, there was a second.
Groundhog Day. That's it. It was unbelievable.
I took the train that morning from Reading. I was facing forward. And I was sitting opposite a really good-looking girl. So was I, you know, the way you do. I never saw her again. I don't know what happened to her. Anyway, there was an almighty bang. In car accidents, there's only ever one bang, but here, there was a series. I could see Carriage H. It was on fire. And I was desperately holding on to the bar, like being on a ferry in the high seas. So I managed to get out and I rang the police on my mobile phone. Apparently I talked for 7 minutes. They put me on speakerphone. But I couldn't answer the most basic questions. I told them there's been a crash, but I didn't know where. All I could see of Carriage H was a great ball of fire and smoke about 20 feet away. So 300 or 400 of us, we survived. We were standing on the side of the track. And you know what, it's funny, isn't it, what goes through your head? You're afraid of stepping out onto the live line or the oncoming trains. And you make calculations. You see 6 people helping someone out of a tent strain. So you think, oh, they won't need me. You want to help, but you make that calculation. One man was complaining about the gash in his leg. I could see there were people dead, so I told him to shut up and stop complaining. Yeah.
People forget. Privatisation had been a great success. Punctuality was up, investment was up. The shares were at over £17.50. And 1998 was the first year since 1902 in which nobody died on the railway. True fact. That's why it annoys me when you always read, BR was a public asset that was given to profiteers who bogged it up. Well, no. Actually, no. In 1998, 91% of the trains were running on time. That's when Prescott called us a national disgrace. People think of shareholders as young men in electric blue shirts driving Ferraris. But they're not. Shareholders are people. People like you and me. Then came Ladbroke Grove. I'm the first to admit I made a mistake. I didn't go down there in person because we had a protocol, because it was passengers. You see, it was passengers who died. The protocol was the train operating companies would go. But of course, inevitably, you can guess what happens. The operators turn up and quietly say to the relatives, "Oh God, yes, Railtrack, terrible organisation, don't look after the infrastructure, quite agree." And then you appear uncaring, which you're not. At first, John Prescott was fine. He visited the site and rang me up. "Nobody's to blame, we'll work together." Then on Wednesday, what happened? The sun went for him. And on Friday, the police put out a statement, completely wrong, completely misleading, saying there could be 100, even 150 bodies in Coach H, the biggest disaster since the Titanic. That was the problem. It took 9 days to get the bodies out. In the meantime, all hell broke loose. Alistair Campbell got nervous, and on Saturday afternoon, too late for me to respond, briefed the press saying that Railtrack were villains and the government was putting in inspectors to review safety procedures. I will say this for Campbell and Downing Street Briefs, they do a professional job. I rang John Prescott, I said, "This is the safest form of transport, Briz. Do you know what you're doing? The most dangerous part of a train journey is the walk to the station, and now you're accusing us of killing people." He told me he was a politician. I'll never forget it. He said, "If you go, you get a payoff. If I go, I get nothing." Can you believe that? Do you believe it?
I've been authorised by the Attorney General to conduct a public inquiry into the cause of death of 31 persons on October 5th, 1999. I shall start by reading my terms of reference. To inquire into and draw lessons from the accident near Paddington Station.
The Cullen Inquiry is a catalogue of shame. It was a complete cover-up.
The Cullen Inquiry was a medieval witch hunt.
Settle down.
I was hissed at whenever I got up to speak.
From the start, Cullen gave everyone immunity. I thought, this is wonderful. They'll be free to tell the truth without fear of prosecution. What actually happened is, they didn't need to disclose anything. I thought this was the Manhattan's Tea Party.
People in Railtrack uniforms were spat at in newspaper shops. We needed a new chairman, and 147 people turned the job down. The Socialist Worker put up 600 pictures of me all over the underground. The caption read, "Wanted for serial killing." My mother used to close her eyes and only open them between stations.
You know, a lot of the time, don't forget you're there. They act as if you're not there. It's very English, David. Like the famous note the head of Railtrack said.
The pursuit of safety is a journey, and you never arrive at your destination.
Quiet!
How could he say that unless he completely forgotten who was in the room? I mean, I just burst into tears. His appearance at the inquiry was a motion of assault, when the managing director stepped up.
Your name, please.
Judas! And then, as he turned to speak, Roman Keller took off his shirt. Underneath, he hand-printed a T-shirt. "You murdered my daughter." Len followed him down the street and said, "Look in your eyes and tell me you're sorry." The Railtrack boss issued a statement.
My wife has been very upset.
We were pretty upset ourselves.
This inquiry understands and appreciates that the feelings of the bereaved and their families are indeed the subject of this inquiry. We never forget that, but it is very hard for witnesses to testify when images of the dead are displayed directly in front of them. I have therefore designated a table for this purpose.
The families agree to putting their photographs on a table. But they do not agree to the table being at the side of the room. The table must be in the centre.
Move the table.
got too close to anything, Cullen would say.
Let's not go down that route. This is an inquiry, not a court of law.
And I would say yes. Pretty sure John to get the truth. You're meant to be professional. You're meant to test what people are saying and to point out what doesn't make sense. But he didn't. That's what we used to call out.
Rubbish. Nonsense.
Just so someone did. One of the lawyers referred to Ladbroke Grove as an accident.
Disaster?
I saw the lawyer go in red.
Yes, disaster.
The next day, we said Cullen the Oxford English Dictionary definition of the word accident. We all did, because Ladbroke Grove wasn't an accident. In the signal box, they admitted there's an override button you can press, and straight away it closed down the whole Paddington Road. But of course, they never touch it. My guess is they don't want to delay the Heathrow Express. They only seem to have two rules on the railway. Never delay the Heathrow Express. It's the golden cash cow. And the second is, don't kill tourists.
I believe the Cullen inquiry was a good thing, and we can work to make life safer.
The Times called us, was it safety fascists or safety Nazis? What they resent the most is that we're not the hysterical bereaved. We're the informed bereaved.
Got a girlfriend now. But I'm what they call in between jobs. I finally settled down for 8,000. Of course, Parky thinks maybe that's not as much as I might have got. But then Parky thinks, great, 8,000. Pay off the debts, pay off the credit cards, buy a car, went up to Oldham, bought a Citroen Zara. Second hand. But I've been on the German motorway with it. I reached up to 145 miles per hour, fantastic. It was wonderful to drive past the police at 110. Incredible. I love risk. But I've quieted down over the last 5 years. Someone used to cut me up. I used to get out and bang up their window. Do you know what you've done? Now I'll let it go.
It's like that film.
Nornus, how dare!
What's the name of that film?
There's a pattern.
A code that claims has safely negotiated for 150 years. On October 17th, 2000, just 1 year after Ladbroke Grove.
What's the name of that film?
The pattern goes, rail accident, inquiry, recommendation, no action. Rail accident, inquiry, recommendation, no action.
The King's Cross to Leeds Express entered the curve at 115 miles per hour, the maximum permitted speed for that stretch of track, and came off the rails. The rails shattered into 300 pieces, like a bicycle crushing a biscuit, and the accident did what even the war had failed to do, brought Britain's railways to a halt. 450 tons of train exerted pressure on a rail that had been known to be faulty for over 8 months.
Groundhog Day.
On May 10th, 2002, the 1245 from King's Cross to King's Lynn was 10 minutes into its journey, travelling at 80 miles per hour, when it derailed and smashed into a station at Potter's Bar. A fragile rock stretch of bar had caused the points to fail catastrophically, and the nuts from the bar were found lying at the side of the track. And 18 months later, nobody had taken responsibility for the failure of maintenance.
I lay there. I thought, crikey, I'm alive. But I'm not a happy teddy bear.
Anything about the crash. Apparently a squadron leader called me out from under the seat.
As you know, Nina's built like a sparrow, so I pulled her out, lay her down horizontally on some cushions, propped her head up.
But I have no memory of it. I've met the squadron leader once.
I've met Nina twice. Once conscious, once unconscious.
I was scared to leave because of the memories it might stir. I knew about him because he contacted the hospital in Barnet to see how I was doing. He told me Austin died instantly. So that's some mercy to know. Railtrack had not admitted responsibility because they were told by Jarvis, who were responsible for the maintenance of the line, that there was compelling evidence of sabotage. Needless to say, no such evidence has ever been produced, and the Health and Safety Executive has dismissed such an explanation. We had a press conference. I was worried that I'd be ill, that I wouldn't be able to cope. When I got there, I surprised myself with my own anger. There was a little old lady. Well, I shouldn't say old. I'm old myself. A lovely old lady, and she's lost her granddaughter. A lovely Nigerian lady, left with 4 kids under 14. We went to visit Railtrack one afternoon. They're incredibly skilled with what they call the victims. It's not nice to be called a victim. At one point, one of the men was smiling, no doubt being pleasant. I said, "You take that smirk off your face!" And he did. I've never believed in corruption before. I'm not talking about the idea of corruption, it being in everyone's interest. Politicians, Railtrack, Jarvis, to do nothing. The response of ordinary people is very different. Some friends were travelling in a cab to Austin's memorial service, and the driver remarked on the bells pealing out across Trafalgar Square. When they told him they were being someone killed in the Potter's Bar crash, he turned off his meter and said, "It's the least I can do." They know, you see. People know. What makes me angriest is the waiting. The waiting makes me angry. You want someone to say sorry and release you for what has happened. But until they say sorry, you can't put it behind you. I read of a woman who wrote a letter to a friend mourning a dead husband. She sought for comfort and could find none anywhere. Except, she said at the end of her letter, "I shall have more closet space." That's about the sum of it. We were together for 48 years. My lover, my friend. I find the pain easier to deal with when I'm talking about it. I haven't really been able to go back to her. I was 1/3 of the way through a children's book. I've picked it up and looked at it once. But it belongs to another world.
On February 5th, 2003, Alistair Downing stood up in the House of Commons to explain the government's new policy on ATP. The government has decided to abandon the tax for its introduction.
In June, Jarvis announced record profits the year following the Potter's Bar crash.
In 2004, it was announced that Jarvis was to be awarded the £350 million contract to upgrade the very structured track on which a disaster occurred.
I feel now that the anniversary is for the bereaved. First year, I went along to the memorial service, and that was a mistake. It wasn't for me. As soon as it was over, I said to my dad, "We're out of here." Now I spend the day of the anniversary in bed, get up at 5 p.m. I wanted to have a party this year, to say, "Yeah, I've survived." The bereaved can't do that. I feel very guilty for surviving. I feel killed.
Peter left work early. He actually ran for the train. He held it for me. I mean, it's funny. I believe it was written.
I was back from Iraq in time for memorial service at Potter's Bar Station. Nina's on the public side of things. She's got a fantastic spirit. They're trying to wear her down. They'd love it if she died.
You know, perhaps this isn't going to achieve anything. But you go on. Our son would not put anything down. He had this thing, David. He didn't get it from me. He was persistent. If he had a puzzle, he did it until he got it perfect. You don't just stop loving your son because he died. After 24 years of bringing him up, you still want things for him. You need to find out why.
I've coined a phrase for what we feel. Those of us who've been through these ordeals. I call it hysterical friendship.